Hello and welcome to the Beyond 6 Seconds podcast. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel, and I am so excited today to be here with my guest, Hunter Hansen. Hunter is an autistic content creator on YouTube and Instagram and a blogger on the lifeautistic.com. After discovering his autism in his late teens, Hunter tried to outgrow and suppress his autistic traits for years until coming to terms and embracing his identity as an autistic adult. He has since turned that suppression into passion, advocating for greater understanding and appreciation of autism and autistic people. Hunter works for a major company as a business analyst and lives in the Denver area with his wife and 3 daughters. Hunter, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I'm also excited to be here too.
Oh, so happy to have you here. So you've been a blogger for many years. I think it's coming on to like a decade or something. You've been writing for a long time. What kind of got you started with your blog?
Yeah, I had done a lot of writing beforehand, just recreationally, as my dogs will attest in the background here. I always had a way with words. I was an early start as a teenager doing music reviews back when like the MP3 scene was still new. So I've always enjoyed it, but as like a personal, like consistent blogging enterprise, I kind of pivoted more to my skills and interest at the time. So it was primarily writing. It was writing all wrong. So I still have some email addresses and aliases by that title. And it was a fun, like, kind of epistolary way to dispense writing knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized like it just wasn't going anywhere. It was a fun, creative thing to do, but after a while it just petered out. But then, yeah, that pivoted really big during kind of a low period in life to where I said, you know what, let's dust this off. Let's rebrand it and let's change it. And hey, why don't we tell the world that I'm autistic and see what happens there? That was May 2018. And here we are.
Yeah. So you mentioned in your bio that you were diagnosed, I think around the age of 16. That's when you got your
16-ish, yeah.
Yeah. And then for many years kind of tried to, just suppress it, or you're saying deny it.
Yeah.
Was that up until like when you started writing about it on your blog at 2018 or so? Was that the point where you were coming to terms with it?
I think there was a little bit leading up to it. And I remember reading a tweet because again, I had gone through college. I'd gone through a lot of my adult life, just, keeping it in the back pocket as like, this is something I don't want to share with people. It's misunderstood. I don't quite understand it. I want to find ways to smooth it out and just exist as me. And it just didn't really enter my mind as much. I was kind of ashamed of it. Then I remember reading some tweet about like, people don't outgrow autism. They just grow into better ways to cope and understand it. And that was like a small, dull spark that began to light a very long fuse. And it got me thinking more about maybe I have adapted to my autism. Like I've understood how to handle it better without even thinking. Just a lot of the things that I had done from a masking perspective, practice, scripting conversations, managing social situations and anxieties were almost indirect ways to like address a lot of like anxieties and difficulties being autistic without knowing like, oh, hey, I'm doing this as a product of my autism, and not knowing why and not even bringing that up. So I remember, it was after my middle child was born, and it was just a weird and sad convergence of a lot of just disappointing, depressing, and upsetting factors to where, I had to reckon with who I was as a person, as a professional, as a husband, and as a father of now children instead of a child. And I mean, it was, you find some truths in the pit. The truth was like, what am I hiding? Who am I really? Maybe I need to undergo kind of a long catharsis to just be more of myself and to share more of that and to articulate that experience, because I didn't tie that into a lot of like depressive things back then, but I knew that like maybe if I untangle this, I can have a story to tell. And I couldn't hide it behind any literary writing sophistry. I just told the story of me for what it was worth, what it would help, what it would uncover, maybe what I would learn along the way. And I mean, that was the blog itself was like a long cook. It was twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down like a ton of topics, and it latched on. Like it just had a small following. It didn't really explode, but it was a good exercise to where I could still write. You know, I enjoyed it. I was good at it. I'm still good with it. I'm not good in long form, but it was good to at least stay fresh, put words to paper, and, you know, still tell that bit of a story, which has had some interesting consequences and impacts that I didn't see and hadn't suspected, but I'm glad I kept up the habit.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny how sometimes it takes especially with content creation, or I guess maybe doing a lot of creative things. It just
Yeah.
takes like years and years and lots of content and writing before it finally starts catching on or spreading
Yeah.
and growing yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't do it in the way you think. Like the
No.
blog itself, it's not like, I mean, I've got it on Substack just as a, like, just to have it there, but it's not like it's caught fire. It's not, we're not raking in hundreds of thousands of views. It still hasn't, but it's, again, it's like one of those, I'm, you know, shaking a lot of brush. It's sending up some embers that are just lighting different things in different arenas, which is good. So I'm grateful for it. And I had feedback from a college roommate who, when I told him I was doing YouTube, he's like, "Are you still going to write?" He's like, "Some of us just like reading." And I'm like, "Well, I like writing and I like reading too. And some topics are just better written than they are vlogged about." So I've always had something to where, hey, this would make a good tart little thing to where I can use my words instead of having to talk through it.
Mhm. Yeah, and so, you know, you've been writing now for several years, since
Yeah.
2018, about your life autistic. How do you feel like your writing about your life has kind of changed over time with your about your perspectives on your own autism?
Yeah, I remember writing it as more of a like general kind of explanation, like, hey, I'm going to explain more about autism. I'm going to explain more about types of support needs. But I've learned along the way. Like I actually found an older blog about high functioning autism, and I'm like, I've since learned that that's just not the way to look at it. It can actually be damaging, and I found like, hey, here's where I've actually suffered, you know, by dint of being considered too high functioning. So let's undo that. So I've taken it from like a learning perspective, describing symptoms, and more of like, how do I make this more like personal? And I found that the things that I want to write that are more for me seem to resonate more. Like when I just tell not just hunter stories with an autistic takeaway, or hey, here's how autistic people do things, I can say, this is what I did. This is how I reacted at this birthday party. Here's why I get disappointed about these things. Hey, somebody showed up uninvited and, well, the world didn't cave in, but here's what happened. And, you know, I got new windows installed. So, like, weird little things that add more color and more context. I've been more brave and unafraid to make it more of a personal narrative, because that is it. It is the Life Autistic. It's I'm not an educator. People don't come to me to learn about autism. They just want to know how it's lived and what life looks like when you're autistic.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and I think you've written about this or talked about this in your videos. Like, it almost seems like autism. Like I know myself, I know a lot of children with autism, but
Yeah.
very few adults. Or I'm sure I
Yeah.
know them, but I just don't realize, you know. But yeah. So I think it's important to have that perspective with as
Yeah. I think it's where like I joke there's just a lot of the narrative is it's dominated by allies. That's not a bad thing on the surface, but like your assessment is almost 100% correct. Like I joke that in like the UK and in non-American English speaking countries, it's about autistic people and adults, and here in the US, it's the autistic people are all kids, and you only hear the stories from the adults' perspective. And I'm like, where? Like I'm a grown up. Am I the only like? Am I the oldest autistic person in the room? I feel like, but no, we're just undiagnosed. We just don't know it because in one earlier interview, I was told I'm almost like the last of this generation of not realizing we're autistic.
yeah.
You know, with kids, I think we're just a little more woke to it. But instead of thinking like, wait a minute, what would have happened if these kids were autistic 30 years ago? Where are the adults? What happens? And now I think that's beginning to shift, hoping it shifts a little quicker, but further, but nonetheless, shifting the narrative to where, you know, we want to be able to articulate our experience, not just for our own sake. I joke that like my ship hasn't sailed, it has sunk, you know, but I can say, hey, here's how the next ships can sail better. Here's what happens when you actually know how you deal with, and really support autistic children with various types of support needs. If they're in a gifted program, they can read the dictionary to age 3, but they can't tie their shoelaces. They're not just like a genius or hyper intelligent. They may very well be autistic, and that has a different set of needs that is just different from how to keep a smart kid from getting bored. And I feel like the future's bright, but we still have a ways to go in advocacy. And I'm glad we've got greater agency in sharing our voice there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you're still continuing to write. And then 2020 really seemed like a turning point for you, certainly in terms of content creation. I feel like, well, 2020 was a turning point for a lot of people, but
It's a
maybe
big
not in the
year.
same, but I
Turning
think
where? Like,
yeah. So that's when you started with all your video content. So what kind of got you to enter that area of making videos?
It's funny to say, like, maybe depression again. I don't know.
Oh,
I feel like it was a combination of a lot of fortuitous circumstances that, in retrospect, I'm glad happened. In the immediate aspect, I was not thrilled with how they happened. I had always heard and had been encouraged by people who were most direct with me to branch out and kind of see in me like a capability that I didn't think I had. I work remote, so it's extremely easy for me to communicate on camera. I'm exceptionally well practiced because I do this by dint of practice. It's not natural. I'm an unnatural natural. And I have to be, because I like to be good at my job. I like to build up a lot of goodwill, and I can do that in a virtual environment by being almost charming on camera. People had noticed that. And I think the jokes were in my presentations. Like, I almost expected Hunter to say, be sure to like and subscribe at the end of this meeting. And then I've had others who said, you've just got a certain kind of charisma. Like, you need to be on YouTube doing something. Or, my mentor was kind of leaning in that direction. Like, you should really think about this. And he had beat that drum a lot from in terms of impact. He said, your words are great, but there's just something about the way you speak it and articulate it. He's like, you're just even like looking at your face, me and my big expressive forehead, which I did have an executive communications coach for Mark, that I have a very expressive forehead. So I use that to my advantage. That and the hair, I don't know. I didn't think of that because I don't see myself that way, but others apparently did. And I was like, yeah, that's great, but I don't have a camera. I don't have a tripod. I don't have a light halo. And I still don't have a lot of that stuff. It's pitiful, but it's a great creative restraint and constraint that helps. But I remember it was a low point in a couple things getting dashed in my career. I just had my 3rd child. So if I have a 4th kid, I'm going to probably launch, I don't know what. So, but anyway, it was after my 3rd daughter, and then just some rough patches career wise that it wasn't anybody's fault. Like, things had just happened, had some extended leave periods and some shuffling. Talked with my mentor, and he said, hey, it kind of sounds like it's time. Like, you have time to do things that you would not have been able to do. It's like, why don't you think about YouTube? I'm like, all right, fine. Let's try it. Mocked up everything, got it all done. And I think I'm not about the numbers anymore. I've decoupled my happiness and my disappointment. Like, there's just no emotional hook. And I'm really glad for that, because I'm not going to celebrate it anymore, but I'm also not going to get as ruined as I used to. But one thing I was proud of was having 100 subscribers before my first video. And it's like, where the heck did you people come from? I don't even know if this is going to be good. I don't have a good topic. But I set a date. I said, it's going to happen. I will have videos. And then I remember one Saturday morning just deciding to go with it, just propping my iPhone up, using, I don't know what combination of books or Post-it notes just to prop it, hold it, tire my arm out. But I did it, and I had one. My mentor's like, you should do 10. And now I'm up to more than 30 and still going. So it was, again, convergence of a lot of unhappy things, but I had margins. And it's like, let's fill this with something I want to do. And had everything gone my way, I might not have had room for a channel, but now I have a channel, and people say that it resonates with them. And I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, consuming the content, definitely your blog and your video content, it's like it's different. I don't want to say it's different perspectives, but it's just different ways of sharing stories and communicating different messages. So they just complement each other really well.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you pick like your first topic, like that whole concept of making your first video? Because I don't know, like I would imagine it's something brand new, maybe something you kind of figure out, and it's like, what do I even talk about? Like, how is that process?
YouTube's a different kind of thing because, you know, with my blog, it was very personal and it was going to a more personal audience that I knew on social media. But with YouTube, I realized it would go beyond that. And I wanted to make it different. I'd thought about adopting blog topics to YouTube videos, or thinking of things that, like, I can't write about this because there's just too much to write, but there's plenty to talk about and demonstrate and like have fun with. I I had a list of ideas, and probably one of the best pieces of advice I give to like content creators looking to get started is have like the big list. Like if you want to get something started, cool, I don't care. Write down 30 ideas, because the momentum is going to peter out after the second or the first. And that's why people fail. It's like, you just need ideas. You're going to have a lot of energy and you'll get it out. But me, I'm in for the long game. I can do it boring. And it's like, I will just write ideas. I'll fill in topics, because even when the motivation's not there, I just pick the idea I am most in love with. I have literally had ideas that jumped out. It's like, I don't like any of these right now, but oh, this new thing, I love it. Let's go do it. And bam, that's another week. My first topic was like the 5 things you're not hearing about autism. And I wanted to make it kind of like a strike on, hey, if you're brand new to me, I'm so sorry this first video is terrible. And it was. And like, I really want to recut it or roast it in an anniversary episode, or just go back and see how little my children were back then. But I wanted to and I'm thinking back and grimacing, like it was, I didn't know how to do certain cuts. I just rolled tape. It was terrible, but it's one of my most popular because it really presents me as an autistic adult telling you things that you are likely just not hearing about autism. You know, like adults can have it, and our voices are actually in the minority because it's dominated by, you know, allies or autism parents, and like, hang on, there's a different narrative. So just kind of spoke from the heart. And, you know, I think I misstated the amount of Toy Story movies there were, but just dispelled a couple things. Like, I hope you tune in because there's a lot to share. I want to be a voice. And I mean, it resonated pretty well. I couldn't believe it. And it kind of set the stage for what worked as like evergreen content, and then also an introduction into, hey, let me take some blog ideas. Hey, let me get some new video ideas. Let's start the conversation. And it's evolved into a very, very different thing. Still not super like, hey, here's what you need to know from an educational standpoint. Here's my take on therapy options, but still more of life. Like, here's a topic and here's my life approach to it. And I've enjoyed sharing a lot of that in that medium. But that first step was tough. And then the second, and then just burning through to where, like, how does this fit? And today I can shoot, cut, edit, publish in 4 hours straight. It's all it takes. And it's a 20+ minute video. Yeah. So that first one was like, it felt like it took forever. Now it feels like it takes forever still, but it's just, I've gotten it down. I've figured out ways to script out a good idea, points to talk through, props, things I want to bring. And then it's a 4-hour cook. Can't believe it. I'm trying to see if I can do it in 3, you know, but I still want to make it good. But I also, you know, I have a family. They still need their dad. You know, my wife still needs me, and I can't be doing this, you know, 100% of the time, because it is exhausting, but it's fun, and I enjoy the process. And as long as I enjoy making things and designing and like just enjoying that, that's enough. It's got to be enough.
Yeah. And do you, I don't want to say script out, but like, how do you, like, because I've watched your videos, I've heard you say that you basically do them in one take and then kind of edit everything together. But the way that it's just so well constructed, I'm like, you must be like writing these detailed outlines, because it's like, I mean, have you gotten so practiced with it that you kind of know in your head, like what you want to talk about and when, or like?
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching the YouTube version on it, like, I'm holding up a Post-it note with like 5 or 6 scrolled notes. That's kind of like my anchor point. I go through one of my my productivity apps, the Things app, and I have one item in there. I'll go with a topic, and then I just flesh it out with stuff I want to discuss. So I mean, if I'm looking through one of them, like, least favorite autistic stereotypes, and I just have bullet points. So like autism and oversharing, how to do it, kids versus parents, timing, handling it, how not to do it, awkward versus entertaining, think ahead, thinking questions, quote, what about Kiwi? Like it's all these small extemporaneous tent poles to where I'll start with that. So I know that if all I'm looking at is this list, I can just talk about it and relay like thoughts. And then usually if I'm prepping for it, it's like, okay, where do I pre-film some of these? Like, can I add like a little bit of a enriching prop to it? Can I do like a scene outdoors? Can I bring one of my kids into this? Do I have a good story? Do I have pictures that tell the story? So when it's one take, it's one, practice with it. I usually know what I'm going to say. If I try saying it too rigidly, it doesn't come out. But if I know I'm going to talk about a good question to ask, like, what about Kiwi? I need a good story. I need a good thing to, like, when I meet somebody famous and then talk about, the famous people I've met. What do I say? How do I become memorable? Where I read that, where that book is actually a good resource for other things, what I can reference. And then it just kind of spits out. But I have to be economical. So a lot of it is, planning I can do at any time. If I'm sitting with the kids, if I'm doing other chores, I can always write down, here's how I want to let it out. So when it comes time to roll tape, the idea baggage is already there and it's just unzipping it and it all spills out. And it just takes less and less editing at each go.
Oh, no, that's great to know. It still takes me like 2 hours to make a reel on Instagram. So maybe
that's
they're not good. So,
it's like that's another medium I've enjoyed because some blogs it's just I can't make into videos. Some videos I can't make into short videos. And there's some it's almost like a form of stand-up comedy where I have an extensive music collection. I have some topics. Those become it's like a 20-minute cook now. Like I just have a good enough idea. And I think the last one I did in my kitchen while blanching asparagus. And I'm like, I can do this. I just need this set of props. I need this song. I need to prop my camera here and then make sure like nobody walks in on me. So let me keep them busy. And then boom, it's like it's out there. May not work, but at least I know I can do this when absolutely pressed on time. So it's good to have, again, creative constraint because I don't have the time to take a long time to do it. I just don't. I got to make do with what I got in between changing diapers, in between cooking, in between work, it's like, it just happens. So, yeah.
And then, so YouTube kind of came first in 2020. And then when you started doing Instagram reels, I want to say relatively recently, because that's actually how I found you. And I know you wrote before that. It's like, that's how it sort of brought in the fold. So
it brought in a fold. Yeah. So there was this brilliant person I used to work with who had since moved to Instagram to help on their Reels product. And just on a whim, I was thinking of like short form video ideas that really don't make sense when you try to tell a joke over the course of a 20-minute video, but would be almost perfect to dip in and do just like, hey, I can do like a witty reel. I can get like one semi-humorous autistic point across. I can use my music collection. And then I think I had like 3, 4, 5 of them do numbers. They don't anymore. It's just they hit the algorithm at the right time. And it was just funny to explore awkward social quirks. And it was, I mean, I don't want to say like that my Instagram blew up, but it definitely increased as a result of Hunter doing silly autism reels. And it was fun. It was good to be connected. And like, so I still try to keep the practice because I like pairing music. I like framing it in that way. And I think the medium is a happy one and it's fun. So every Tuesday morning, that's my creative thing. So Monday's the blog, Tuesday morning's the reels, Wednesday's the YouTube. And then I intentionally backload doing the videos now because I'd spend too much time observing and I'd be like, oh, it's not doing well or it's doing great. Oh my gosh, this isn't working. And I realized like if I'm just sitting there watching how people respond and it's not to my expectations, I'm going to fall into a trap. I'm going to get bored. So it's like, nope, just work on the next episode and have that ready to go. So it's like how this does is great. I don't care how it's like movie directors. Like, hey, the premiere's great. It's awesome. But I'm like knee deep in another project at this point. And it's it's exhausting, but I'd rather choose the perils of creative exhaustion versus like audience response and anxiety. And it's tough. I am still human, so I have to be level about it. Problem is though, I did that video in 4 hours, so it's like, great, now I've got 2 days to observe how this latest video is doing. Maybe I should film another thing and fill that void with creative output, because then, hey, I've got some stories to tell. It's fun, and it's a good way not to look at like, oh, how is this doing, how are people responding, do they hate me even more? No, I'm just immersed in another project that I like. So that is the cadence. So if you want the secret sauce, that is how the Life Autistic goes.
Yeah. And I think that's a good approach, because I mean, of course, with podcasting, it's the same challenge. It's like, what are my numbers? And is anybody downloading this? And it's like,
Yeah.
And I've noticed with your videos, and I know you're not paying attention to the numbers as much, but I'm seeing like that, you're getting views, but you're getting so, like, within an hour or two, you're getting so many comments of people writing like, yes, this is my experience, or like, I related to this, or this makes me think of somebody that I know. I think that's huge, that kind of community and that interaction, because like, I mean, views, you can buy those, you can get bots to like drive up your numbers, but that real like community input, like that is something that you have to, the content has to bring the people in. So
and that's kind of where two threads on this. One, I had somebody remark that my like videos have the most wholesome YouTube comment section. And I'm like, that is strange. And he mentioned that, like, it's strange because that's not where you go for wholesome conversations. I'm like, that's true. So I delight in that. I like the fact that my expertise is my experience. Like, I don't sit and say like, hey, here's what you should do, here's what you shouldn't. I'm just speaking from experience. Like, unless you're my siblings, you're really not going to argue with me about that.
Right.
Your experience will differ. And it's like, cool, that's your experience. It is valid too. Like, I'm sorry you had a bad experience with this. Mine was fine. I'd love to learn more about yours, or hey, mine was terrible. I'm glad you had a good experience with this. That's awesome. I would have loved to have had that, but I didn't, but I'm sharing it, and that's okay. Experience varies. So, and then two, I like it because I never thought of myself as relatable. I was always the odd man out. Now I'm the odd man in, apparently. And because of that otherness just really shaping who I was as a person for so long, I felt like I would be a perpetual outsider until I realized that, whoa, other people actually feel like this too. And I share things that, like, I can't be the only one who thinks this, or even if I am, I'm delighted that people respond and say, me too. I also check Wikipedia on my phone and missed the entire movie because I figured out this one actor was here. And it's like, it's not just me. And in a weird way, that quote weirdness and otherness, it's nice to be along the same spectrum and wavelength with other people's otherness too. And the phrase that comes back is, you are not alone. I've had people say that to me. I have told that to people. And I think that's a really beneficial thing for autistic people to hear growing up, and they are the only one in their group who is like who they are. They're not alone. Even as adults, it's like, no, you are not alone in this. And I think that's a powerful thing in the human experience, and especially with autism, because you feel alone a lot until you find other people who are like, no, I feel alone a lot, and here's why. You too? Yes. And there you go. That's your autism community.
Yeah, and that's just so powerful. Wow, amazing. So I mean, thinking you're already having like this impact with all of your content creation, have you kind of thought like a little longer term, like, is there like other types of impact that you want to have with your content? Or
I didn't even think what's the phrase from Samwise Gamgee? By rights, we shouldn't even be here. And I'm like, I just think I'm just some rando in Denver. I'm a dad. I'm old. I have 3 kids, and I use big words. I'm not an influencer. I'm not some social media guy. Like, now I'm on YouTube. I have strangers who can navigate my house and know what books are on my bookshelf and pick up on things that I don't even notice. Like my paint job. It's like I get clowned about like that now. And it's like I have just random people who do this. And the impacts are just interesting. My passion though is it's more professional. I do have what I call boring professional privilege. I just do. I work in a corporate environment, and I'm a boring professional person. I I'm pretty straight edge. My hair's wild, but that's really it. Otherwise, I'm just kind of flat. I don't do anything wild. And I realize though that's still a great weapon for autism. There's other influencers, mega influencers, who are doing a lot and connecting and vibing with a lot of other people, you know, across the spectrum. My flavor of autism and my flavor of Hunter is not everybody's. But where I've been really proud of is that, you know, in a professional context, you're probably not going to go to like a super TikTok star to inform your efforts on neurodiversity. You're going to want to just be a little more risk averse and quote unquote make it more corporate to where like, who do I want to help educate us on this?
Mhm.
That's still fallen far behind because it's still a very clinical approach. It's still non-autistic people and just people talking about autism. But I'm really excited for the headway and some of the steps that we've made to where, hey, I get tapped for this now. People, I'm like, you must be desperate to be asking Hunter, but they do. And they know, like, hey, I'd love your take on this neurodiversity initiative. I feel like your experience is valid because we don't need a textbook or medical definition. We just need to know, hey, how do we get the most out of our autistic talent? How do we accommodate autistic people who are undiagnosed, who don't share their conditions? What do we do to make it a better workplace? And that niche is not super popular. And I can tell you that because of the videos I do, but I'm really passionate about that because I won't name names, but there's a certain film out that has aggrieved a lot of the autistic community, and a lot of people are up in arms about it. Me, I can only be mad about so many things in a day. I just don't have the outrage. I'm a dad now, and I have daughters. I'm pretty mellow uh, most of the time. But what I want to do, like my advocacy, is where 5 years down the road, an undiagnosed autistic adult going in for their first quote unquote real job gets into that interview, stroke of luck, and ends up, you know, freezing or using like I don't know, like a sesquipedalian word or whatever, something that's polysyllabic that the interviewer 5 years ago would think, oh, using big words, must be a weirdo. We're not going to take him because they're not a good communicator. They're probably showing off. I want to be the one who can affect change to where they might double take and think, this is a product of neurodivergence, most likely. This person may be communicating with this word in this way because of how they align with the sentiment there. They're obviously not showing off. They probably don't have communication difficulties. They've made it this far. Let me check my own bias. Let me listen to them. Let me hear what they have to say. Let me see how they can demonstrate their value to what they add to the company, what they can give our customers. Like those, that's my advocacy. That's what I want to do, to where it's more subtle, because like gainful employee elevates your life. I'm independent. I have a house. I do okay, you know, and that's amazing for an autistic person or any person. But I don't want like there's a huge like underemployment crisis with autistic people anyway, and a lot of it is just lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge begets a lack of support, misunderstanding, and then boom, we've got this talent that's just shut out of not just like it's not so much giving to the corporate environment, but just elevating your life. You have a stable job, stable income. For me, it's a stable work environment. I know what to expect. I'm away from a lot of other anxieties, and I get paid to do what I do and sit in a nice fortress. You know? So
Mhm.
I like that's something to where it's not for everybody, but like that's the kind of advocacy and impact I'm hoping to have, which means maybe I might have to, well, I'm probably not going to get a haircut, but I'd love to see this broaden to where like, hey, we want to understand how to be better for autistic people, you know, from like a company perspective. Hunter, would you be willing to lend your perspective? You know, yeah, I'm getting in the doors like, you know, you're on YouTube, but you also have company experience. You get it. You understand the grind. You understand what it is to balance expectations, decorum with being your authentic self.
Mhm.
Well, that was a long answer, but that's, I realize it's not some other channel. It's not some other kind of content. It's not a podcast. I'm not going to
Mhm.
be in that space.
Mhm.
But there is a space to where I can help with it, and that'd be nice. It'd be cool. And some of it's starting to happen. Can't say much about it, but
Mhm.
it's a slow crawl. On we go.
That's cool. And that's powerful because, you know, you're just by nature of, you know, even your proximity, because you've, you know, you work in the corporate world, you've been working there for many years. I think you have, are you kind of uniquely positioned to, you know, you're kind of in the place and you're doing all this content and you're positioned to definitely be there and make that impact. And plus, I think it's powerful because I think there's just a lot of like misunderstandings and bias about like what kind of jobs autistic people can have.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
I mean,
like,
like you work as a business analyst, but you've done other things in your career that
oh
are totally
man. So
different.
can we park here for a second? Because
Yes.
even like these kinds of things, like the running gag, I have a, co-host at work who is brilliant with QA, and she jokes that it's a prototypical, like a stereotypical autistic job. She's like, I just happen to be good at it. But my first job was as a technical support agent taking phone calls. Like, yeah, taking
Whoa.
call. Like, I don't even call for pizza. I
I
do
don't
it
even,
because, yeah, it's so imagine being on the receiving end of that call. It was different, and it was good to at least learn that. But I was a people leader. I had an organization, and I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed coaching. I enjoyed leading. I could stir up a crowd. I put on the what I call the luchador mask of energy, and people got riled up. Uh, but it was good. And I think people relegate like, oh, autistic people, cool. Maybe we have some coding and QA jobs. It's like, not coding was late for me. Like that was a late acquisition and daunting, and I'm still not great at it. In fact, I'm great at other things about my job that don't involve just raw data technicality. I probably got where I did based more on my, if you can believe this, acquired people skills. It's not data that drives people, it's people that drive people. And just, sending a note when somebody had a bad meeting and let them know that, like, hey, this seemed rough. I'm here to support you. And I'm their data guy. And they have a data guy who's the most human in their orbit who reached out to ask if things were okay. I mean, that bought me 6 months of goodwill. So it's, and I think that's another, like, that's one of those things to where, hey, cool, you want to open the door to autistic people. Well, it's not just tech. I mean, there's other leadership roles, there's other support roles. So it's again, I'm in this for the long game, and that's okay. So when all these autistic kids in America grow up, I'm hoping that the workplace is going to be way more open, just in general, and not just open, but understanding to where, like, no, we don't have autistic specific jobs, but we have ways to support you with what you're good at, and it doesn't have to be coding.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, so, oh gosh. I mean, it's interesting because and maybe that's that commonality why I'm just kind of drawn to your content, is because we have that kind of corporate experience in common. So, and I definitely find a lot of your content relatable, even though I'm neurotypical. But
Yeah,
every
thank you.
time I read a blog of yours, there's at least one thing in there that just like really gets me. I'm like, oh my God, somebody else has done that, or somebody else has felt that way or thought that. So I just see, I totally see the relatability, and it's really great that you'll be able to make that impact.
Yeah, it's been surprising, but I'm glad. It's just sometimes put it out there and people latch on to different aspects of it. And I think that's the delight, like something that lands with somebody in one way just, completely brushes by somebody else. Like, and I look in that, like, I kind of do like a running history of my videos, blog posts. There's one that I said, I'm writing this for me, and I don't care. It doesn't even have to be about autism. I just want to make this a Hunter Hansen. I just got to get it out. And it was about the bricks. And like that's apparently like a favorite of a lot of people. And I'm like, this was just for me. Like, I didn't write it for any of you. Like, I was angry, but I still go back to it. And it's funny how what you put out there, you don't really know the kind of impact. Like, this one video did this, or there's one that, like, if I look at the numbers, there's some that are just clear underperformers, but then it just hits somebody a certain way, gets them thinking, they share, and then, like, now I'm doing podcasts with them, and like that has happened. And it's just strange. And I'm not saying that's my only motivation, but it's good to just talk, because there's parts of a message that will resonate deeply. Sometimes it's the whole thing, sometimes it's a throwaway phrase, like, wow, that really changed how I looked at it. So I don't know, it's good to share. I'm glad people find value in it and carry that forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, Hunter, it's been such a pleasure to actually get to
Yeah.
meet you. I feel like meeting
Absolutely,
a
pleasure's all mine. So,
celebrity.
I'm not that in any sense. So I will say, like, it wasn't until, like, I had to dip in and listen to your podcast, because the Beyond 6 seconds, like,
Mhm.
that's an interesting hook, and I'm like, what does that even refer to? And apparently, yeah, first impressions, and I just love the setup. And I think when you meet autistic people, my first impression is very different. Like, whether I'm autistic, if you don't, how you present. I go into like the uncanny valley effect. So it's compelling. So hope I've made a good first impression on this one,
Oh my gosh,
a
absolutely.
lasting one of some value somehow.
Absolutely. Wow. So let's tell everyone, where should we go to find your content online?
Yeah, so if you're like the writing, it's the lifeautistic.com. That'll link you to Instagram and the YouTube, but it's the _life_autistic on Instagram. And then if you just look up Hunter Hansen, the Life Autistic on YouTube, you will find me there as well.
Fabulous. And I'll put links in the show notes. So
Thank you. That
right
really
there.
helps.
So yeah, just as we close out, is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know, or anything that they can do to help or support you?
As far as like me,
Or
like,
your work?
I will say this, it's nice to have likes and subscribes. I love the commentary, I love the dialogue, I love when people actually take their time to write about how something affected them, or a comment on a video. Like, I know it sounds trite, but I really like, I can still take the time to like and respond to all of it. And a lot of times it creates a positive cycle of just understanding people's experiences better. What I've been going on lately is just, if it's interesting, share it, because it's like nodes, right? You may be more connected to somebody who may find value in it more than you do. And that's how I'm trying to build the advocacy. Is I don't know all the autistic people you know, but you do, or they do. And that's what I'm hoping. And it's been a great endeavor. I've liked it. People seem to enjoy the content thus far. So yes, that's the best way. I just like the dialogue. I'm not in it to like create a community, but it just happens. It's grown, and I've fondly appreciated, the supporters, and the comments and the shares and the feedback, and what people say. It's a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift, and it's a gift that you're also giving to the world. Essentially, just
Yeah.
be like so profound, but really, it's it takes the effort and to share about your life and bring us into your day to day life is
Yeah.
it's major. It's a gift that you're giving to us. So, and I'm excited. I know it's going to continue. Your influence and your impact will continue to grow, and I'm excited to see how it does.
Be quite the journey ahead. I got no idea what's up, but it's been interesting, and I just hope it stays interesting. That's
Yeah,
the spice of life.
absolutely. Right. Well, thank you so much, Hunter, for being on
Absolutely.
the
Thanks
show.
for having me.
Absolutely.